Shan, just starting from your own dismissal, you seemed quite upset at what had happened. Could you just describe your thought process and what exercised you so much?
I think it's simple from my end. It was an outswinger. And if you see the ball that I was beaten before, it jagged away a long way. I was beaten on the outside edge and it was shown as an in-swinger. I was baffled by that, to be very honest. And then to show that with the naked eye, you could see that it felt like it was outside the line as well. And I just felt it was a different picture. I didn't get hit there where Hawkeye is showing it to be hit. I was hit more on the outside of the leg than the inside. It shows it on the inside. It shows it as an in-swinger. That's not an in-swinger. I was beaten by an outswinger, and that's what the umpire thought as well. And that's all I can say to that.
Do you sort of have any recourse after that happens? Did you speak to anyone, the fourth umpire, the TV umpire, anyone?
No, I think that's up to the administrators to see whether they feel that's a fair decision or not. But I certainly felt that technology didn't show the trajectory of how that ball was.
And looking back on the series as a whole, it is 2 losses, it is 2-0. What do you sort of take away now that these 2 weeks have gone? It might easily have been 1-1, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I think a bit where a few different stories where, like at the Centurion, we had our opportunities, we didn't seize the crunch moments, and here we started off quite late. The response was really good. You always get a lot of encouragement from the fight back whenever you follow on, and it's a track where there was a lot of wear and tear, and you I think put a decent performance, and especially when our third innings record hasn't been the greatest in terms of numbers. So that was satisfactory. Quite a lot of good performances, but I still feel that even today, like there were a lot of 30s and 40s. There was only one partnership of 200, then another of 80. We could string a couple of more 100 partnerships than those 50 partnerships and get those 30s into 80s, or another 100 on the scorecard. Things can then change, but again, I felt in this test match we left it too late, because our first innings with the bat and ball wasn't great.
Congrats on your innings today. You guys seem to apply yourselves a lot more in the second innings. Comparing the first innings to the second innings, do you think that South Africa bowled better in your first innings, or was there not as much application from you guys in the first innings?
Look, I think I'm a firm believer that you can never look at things in isolation. It's a game where you have to look at what's happened before and what can happen later, and then what's happening right now. When you concede 615 runs on any sort of surface, there are going to be times where you're going to be physically and mentally challenged as a batting unit because you've spent 2 days out in the field. The learning for us, and we've seen it, I think when test matches are 3 days long of very quick test matches, I think we're an exceptional team in that, and we've shown that in different conditions. But I think when it's a bit flatter, when we spend more time in the field fielding, or we have to create chances of getting 20 wickets, I think that's where we need our improvement. And there have been instances of that, like in Multan, like over here. How can you limit the damage where we had South Africa 320 for 5 in the first innings, and they get another 300 runs after that. How can we limit that into 200 runs rather than 300 runs? So, and then with the bat again, like if we think that we've lost 3 early wickets, yes, but then how can we, instead of 194, get a 294? So those are the things, like I think on flatter tracks that we need to improve as a side, because they require a bit more resilience when it comes to mental and physical fitness, and it also requires you to create chances. I think South Africa bowled really well in both innings. Their pace was up. I think that has been a key difference in the series. If you look at our first innings, 132 to 135 not carrying to the slips compared to 138 to 144, 45 when Mapaka was bowling. Those are the edges. Those beat the batsman, hit you on the pads. And that is a difference, and that is something that we want to do in Test cricket as well. Obviously, have the odd bowler that can crank it up. But again, they've been really good signs. People have really stepped up. These aren't conditions that we play in every day. They're different. A lot of the guys, like I said, in Centurion, I think 7 out of the 11 were playing their first Test match at the Centurion. So we also have to look at those things and be patient with people. But again, like few things like Babar opening, I think that's pretty big. He came to number 3. Then Simon unfortunately fell injured, and then Babar opening, getting runs. Abbas coming back. So there have been a lot of good things as well. But again, like we were too late in this game.
Yes.
Shan, you've kind of mentioned a little bit there about South Africa's pace bowling. I wondered across the 2 Test matches, which were very different games, the match in Centurion being very quick and this one kind of drawn out. What stood out for you about the way South Africa played across 2 Test matches?
I think what I really liked was how aggressive they were with the ball, in that